Yeah, Jumbo, to all the viewers out there, and I'd like to welcome you back once again to the PACM TV Live. These are the Umoja sessions that takes place each Sunday between the hours of 6 and 8. Just before I hand over to Brother Imani, who will be doing a ritual to change um,
Energy.
the energy. Thanks. Ritual to change the energy. I've got some sad news, and that's one of the giants in the community, especially in the community of Haringames, suddenly transitioned. You may know her, you may not know her, but her name was Sister Jan, also known as Sister Leo. And from what I can gather, it was something that happened very suddenly. So we do all our prayers go to her family and her friends. She was somebody that I knew quite well for quite a period of time. And one of the things I always looked forward to was at Kwanzaa, she'll be the person that came up and conducted the children in lighting the candle. That's something she had been doing for the past good few years. So, as with things, we never know what's around the corner, but great condolences again to her family. So, at this point in time, I'd like to hand you over to Ndugu Imani, who will be doing a, a session, ritual in helping us to change the energy. So, I'll hand you over to Ndugu Imani.
Asante sana, Ndugu. Asante sana in Kiswahili just means thank you very much. And Hamjambo Jamaa, which means welcome, kindred. And so, as Ndugu said, I will do a ritual to change the energy. It's called Mabadiliko ya Nishati in Kiswahili. And that's something that I've created so that we can join together in virtual space, as we don't have the benefit and the joy of being together physically as we'd like to be. So through the linking with our own divine energies and the energy of the supreme consciousness, we can join each other even though we're not in the same physical space. So, Ndugu, I'm going to share my screen. Oops, let's have a look, see. Right, so I think, hold on, I just need to change. Yes, my screen here. Perfect. Okay. Right. So there, I've shared it. So let me know when you can see it.
Okay, it's coming through. Okay, it's coming through now. Right.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, so as you can see, Mabadiliko ya Nishati, change of energy. So all of what I'm going to say is going to be in Kiswahili and English and using some Cometian terms, but there's translations on the screen. So feel free to take part, but African spirituality is not about coercion. So if you just want to listen and watch, that's absolutely fine. But if you do wish to, then you can, because you'll be able to follow it on screen. Okay. So to change the energy or vibration, we're now going to thank the powers to ask that we have a closer connection with them, that they assist us in manifesting our objectives. And before we start further into the ritual, first thing we need to do is ground ourselves and calm ourselves and use our breath, which is our link between our physical vibration and our spiritual vibration. It's that bridge. And so in order to do that, we shall breathe together. And I'll lead on that. You can do it with me. So if you wish to take part, please sit straight, your back straight, With your, so your spine is straight, so your energy centers are all in line. With your feet flat on the floor and your hands on your thighs if you're sitting in a chair. And what we're going to do is when we breathe out, we're going to pull our stomachs in, and that will force the air out of our lungs fully. Then we're going to relax our stomachs and make the diaphragm drop and breathe in through our nose. Okay, and that will help us pull in the energies and help us to calm. Okay, we'll do it 4 times. Reason for 4 is because 4 is a spiritual number for health, for growth, and for foundation. There's 4 walls to a building. There's it's a very strong number, and this is what we're trying to build in our families, in our communities, in our nation, in our race, a foundation. So we'll use 4. So if you can, with me, close your eyes. First of all, we're going to breathe out. So we pull our stomachs in, hold it, and then relax and breathe in through the nose. Umoja. And then we breathe out. Hold it. And then we relax. Breathe in. Mbili. And we breathe out. Putting that stomach in. And relax. Breathe in. Tatu. And finally, we breathe out. And now relax and breathe in. Wonderful. Now, I'm going to, if you can open your eyes, I'm going to play this triangle chime, and I'm going to ring it 7 times so that we can become in accord with the energies where we are, that we physically are. And by that, make a connection with the Supreme Consciousness, and via that, join with each other through spirit, wherever we may be. And I use 7 because 7 is a spiritual number for wisdom, seeking, and truth. And 7 is a very powerful number. It appears in all existence, 7 days of the week, 7 colors to the spectrum, 7 major notes in the musical scale, 7 layers to the skin, 7 openings to the body, 7 deadly sins, and so on and so forth. It appears 7 laws of Tahuti. So this appears all through creation and all through our people and our culture. Very strong and powerful number. So I'll ring it 7 times. Let the vibration go over you, go around you and through you, and bring you into resonance with the energies. So continue breathing the way that we did before, and I begin. Umoja. Mbili. Tatu. Ine. Tana. Sita. Saba. So I was counting in Kiswahili. Now you can open your eyes and go on to calling onto the powers. So it's call and response. So as I call on the different powers, then we in unison say that we are one or we are the same thing. But in Swahili, it's sisi ni kitu Kimoja. Okay, and so I'll begin. Ninaomba ya muomba awote. Sisi ni
kitu kimoja.
Ninaomba nebacha. Sisi
ni
kitu kimoja. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya mami wata. I'll leave that there so people can read that. Sisi ni kitu kimoja. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya shu. Sisi ni kitu kimoja. As you can see, you're calling upon the cosmic forces that are in all existence, but also within us. But here you see Shu, Tefnut, Nut, and Geb. Male principle, female principle, female principle, male principle. We need the two in order to create. So ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Tefnut. Sisi ni kitu kimoja. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Nut. Sisi ni kitu kimoja. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Geb. Sisi ni kitu kimoja. Now going on to those principles and powers that are part of the Pautnetaru, or the company of powers, or deities, which is part of the Kemetic tree of life. Again, principles that are within us and also are the foundation of all existence. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Auset. Sisi ni kitu kimoja. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Sebek. Sisi ni kitu kimoja. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Keteru. Sisi ni kitu kimoja. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Haru. Sisi ni kitu kimoja. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Herakuti. Sisi ni kitu kimoja. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Maat.
Sisi ni
kitu kimoja. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Sakar. Sisi ni kitu kimoja. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Tahuti. Sisi ni kitu kimoja. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Ausa. Sisi ni kitu kimoja. Ninaomba kanuni na nguvu ya Amen. Sisi ni kitu kimoja. And now we can come to the point where we call upon the ancestors. But first of all, we should always call upon those in our direct line. So, Ninaomba Bibi Ketera Reed. Sisini Kitu Umoja.
Umoja. Ninaomba Iceland Ratigan.
Sisini Kitu Umoja. And now we can call upon those ancestors. Oh, sorry, Ndugu, is there anybody else you wish to call in your direct bloodline?
Okay, I'll call upon my grandparents. That's Louise Hines and Sylvester Rattigan.
Sisini Kitu Umoja. Now we can call upon those ancestors who are not in our direct line, but have made a tremendous contribution to our communities, to our nation, to our race. And if it's in our divine, is it a divine purpose, we'll be able to emanate their works or even go beyond it. Ninaomba Mzee, and Mzee in Kiswahili means elder. Ninaomba Mzee, the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja.
Ninaomba Sheikh Amadou Bamba.
Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja. Ninaomba Mzee Amy Ashwood Garvey. Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja.
Ninaomba Ya Santua.
Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja. Ninaomba Mzee Amy Jacques Garvey. Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja.
Ninaomba Helen Seturi Jata.
Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja. Ninaomba Mzee Elhaj Malik Shabazz. Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja.
Ninaomba Amico Cabral.
Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja. Ninaomba Mzee Betty Shabazz. Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja.
Ninaomba Queen Nzinga.
Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja. Ninaomba Mzee Winnie Mandela. Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja. Okay, I'll continue. Ninaomba Mzee Sambomfu Some. Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja.
Ninaomba Jafta Masimola.
Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja. Ninaomba Mzee Nana Bonsu. Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja. Ninaomba Baba Berenge. Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja.
Ninaomba Baba Tagel.
Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja. Ninaomba Dada Jan. Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja. Dada
Ninaomba Baba Dogi.
Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja. Ninaomba Dada Nkechi. Sisi ni Kitu Kimoja. And now we can call upon those ancestors who we don't always know their name, but they've gave us a tremendous legacy for us to follow. So those group of ancestors, the first that we should never forget, and those who are always looking to us to call upon them to advise, obtain their advice and their assistance. Those who died in Arab enslavement, those who died in European enslavement, those who died in colonialism, those who died and fought all of them fought during neocolonialism. Ninamba Mababu Ya Mangamazi, Sisini Kitu Kimoja, Ninamba Mababu Ya Asian Revolution, Sisini Kitu Kimoja, Ninamba Mababu Ya Mosai, Sisini Kitu Kimoja, Ninamba Mababu Ya Freedom and Land Party, Sisini Kitu Kimoja, Ninamba Mababu Ya APLA, Sisini Kitu Kimoja, Ninamba Mababu Ya Kemet Na Tarseti, both Kemet and of Kush or Nubia, named Tarseti, Sisini Kitu Kimoja, Ninamba Mababu Ya Twa Nahutu, Sisini Kitu Kimoja, Nina Waomba Wanoishi Ambao Watatetea Sisi, Na Wale Mababu Ambao Bada Hawajaz Liwa, Sisini Kitu Kimoja. And we can end on the words of power. Nguvu zote kwa watu wetu, na mapenzi ya wote ni mapenzi yetu. All power to our people, and the will of the all is our will. Asante sana.
Yeah, asante sana.
Okay, so do you want me to go straight into the presentation, or you want to talk a little before?
No, you can go straight in.
Okay, so let me just go into here. Like that. And go back. So I'm going to share the screen now. Oops. Okay, let me know if you can see that.
Right? Yeah, it's coming up.
Okay. Okay. Can you see that now? Is it now streaming?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
All right, then. Asante sana. So, yes. So the topic of the presentation today, and we'll hope to share together on this topic, is African spirituality and liberation. As Ndugu Tahaka said, my name is Ndugu Imani. I'm a member of the Pan-African Congress movement, also an African spiritual practitioner, advisor, and diviner. So, 2000 Seasons by Mzee Kwama. Here is the book, the cover of the book here, which I strongly suggest people should get and read, is, in my opinion, a deeply prophetic, insightful, and deeply African spiritualistic book. This fictional novel speaks to its audiences on the condition of African people on the continent before invasion, during that invasion, the aftermath, and their potential liberation in the future. However, he intends that the teaching be applied to Africans worldwide. Here's a picture of the Mzee here. The underlying message of the story is that African people worldwide will only liberate themselves from their oppressors when they return to their original spiritual values of their ancestors, as these spiritual values resurrect an African Ma'at culture. And it is this Ma'at culture that will define how they express themselves in all areas of human activity. He shows that Abrahamic versions of African spirituality, so that's Christianity, Islam, Judaism, or pantomime versions of it can't liberate us, as they do not possess the tools to do so. They simply increase the confusion, division, dysfunction, and manipulation of us by others. This presentation will illustrate this teaching, but also in line with 2000 Seasons, it will make the point that real and solid African liberation starts with a personal connection to our spirituality. A spiritually moral transformation must occur within Africans wishing to be free to be their authentic selves. Only when we begin to spiritually transform can we control our divine power and begin to heal the wounds of our psyches. Once we begin to heal, we will act correctly and manifest our liberation. To make these points, I will be using examples from TTS, 2000 Seasons, but also from the work of Ndugu Imani and Dada Verona Spencer Darfo. You can see their work here, Ancestral Voices. From Mzee Umfudishi Jutimas Ka and Haru Hassan K. Salim. Mzee Neely Fuller Jr. Ancient Kemetian Spiritual Concepts and Words of Wisdom. And the Pan-African Congress Movement. But first, it would be beneficial for this discussion to have a common understanding of what African spirituality is. And if I've ever shared with you before, you've heard me go through this before, so do bear with me if you've heard this before, but I think it's worthy of repetition. These deep African spiritual concepts are worthy of us going through again and meditating upon them. So, what is African spirituality? Diana Darfo and Verona Spencer Darfo, the creators of the brilliant, groundbreaking, educational African spirituality resource, Ancestral Voices, captured the main characteristics of African spirituality. They have taken the work of many great African writers and spiritualists and distilled information into a digestible form. Their work demonstrates that there were many tools that Africans had developed to understand the life force spirit that all existence, past, present, and future, are part of. The tools depended on our place in time, our location, and the languages we spoke. Therefore, the tools have many names. For example, Vodou, Dagara, Kemetic Mystery System, Obia, Ifa, Kandabole, Dogon, Ramani. None are more correct than any other. They were just the methods the all, or Wote in Kiswahili, gifted to humans to understand reality. The characteristics of African spirituality, whenever it is expressed, are as follows. Conceptions of the Creator. And this is one of the most ancient symbols of the Creator that people over maybe even millions of years old. We know at least maybe 400, 500,000 years old. As you can see, it looks like an eye, but it also has a resemblance to the atom. So it shows how our African culture was already speaking on the very fabric and the building blocks of life before anybody or any other group of people had even thought about it. So the conceptions of the Creator. God, Amen, Muumba, the All, the Creator, is thought as the supreme consciousness, and everything that has existed, does exist, and will ever exist, including humans, are divine mental projections of this supreme consciousness. Supreme consciousness is viewed as a singularity, immutable, and manifests in infinite forms. Immutable means it can't be divided. However, these manifestations are subjective reality, an illusion, as in absolute reality, there is only the singularity. Supreme consciousness is omnipresent, all places, omnipotent, all powerful, and omniscient, all knowing. Nature is an expression of the supreme consciousness. It is divine, intelligent, and should be respected and be harmonized with us, as we are nature and nature is us. And here in this symbol, you get the concept of the singularity, and then everything that is expressed is in this circle. Nothing can be added to it, nothing can be divided from it or taken away from it. The creator as female. The earliest depictions still on record in Africa to date are of the creator as a female and one with child, pointing to the function of giving birth, that is, coming into being or form. Then creator as male and female pair. There's more surviving recorded evidence of the creator as a male and female pair in existence, as opposed to a singular male godhead. The conceptualization of a dual nature of the creator is recognition of the involvement of both a masculine and a feminine principle for creation to come about. Nature of existence. In the African worldview, the nature of existence does not comprise solely of what we can perceive with our visual sense, that is, our eyes. The universe is composed of two aspects, or realms, physical and spiritual, with the spiritual realm further stratified into various spaces or abodes. These spaces include those of departed ancestors, spirits or forces of nature, and that of the ultimate source of creation of all things in existence. These two realms are in constant interchange with each other, and what happens in one realm can have an impact on the other. In so doing, order and harmony are maintained in the cosmos and on Earth. Order and balance. Opposing but complementary forces maintain order and balance as a necessity for harmony between realms of existence. There can be no good without bad, and the bad is not to be dispelled entirely per se, but rather managed and utilized as a source of learning to inform future attitudes and actions. The interconnectedness of things. All things in existence have an impact on each other, and this interconnectedness and interplay is in constant dynamic. There are cause and effect relationships to be found in all experiences, acts and thoughts, and as such, what we will in our mind is manifested in the flesh. Correspondence. As above, so below. In African traditional belief systems, it is held that the structure of the social organizations are a reflection of the same hierarchical organization in the spiritual world. Cyclical existence. All that is in creation is never lost. Even when it decays, withers and dies, and is no longer discernible by our visible senses. Instead, it is transformed into another form or function, so that existence continuously replenishes itself. The spirit of being. In the African worldview, all things in creation have the quintessential essence of the creator contained within it, whether animate or inanimate. And it is an extension of the aforementioned notion of the interconnectedness of things. In summary, African spirituality is whole brain synthesis, congregative thinking, the understanding of the oneness of all things. Now, we should do the same for African liberation, that is, have a common understanding for this discussion. The aims of the Pan-African Congress movement will provide our working understanding of African liberation as follows. First, the total unconditional liberation of Africa, African people and our lands worldwide under the government and protection of the United States of Africa. Secondly, to create a oneness among our people that be held together by the promotion and practice of African spirituality in line with our African tradition. Next, to guarantee the material prosperity of our people by developing and controlling our resources through sound economic structures. to reclaim the minds of our people so as to restore a true knowledge of self, giving identity, purpose, and direction. Next, we should describe the current situation of African people, as painful as that may be. And to do this, we're going to turn to Mzee Kweyama's novel 2000 Seasons. As he clearly states in his novel, the past and describes the current and prophesizes the future situations of our people. So on page 17, it says, slavery. Do you know what that is? Oh, you will know it. 2000 seasons, 1000 going into it, a second 1000 crawling maimed from it, will teach you everything about enslavement, the destruction of souls, the killing of bodies, the infusion of violence into every breath, every drop, every morsel of your sustaining air, your water, your food, till you come again upon the way. So to explain, here he describes our position for approximately the last 2,745 years. That's since the Persian invasion of Kemet in 525 BCE. That is, we are addicts of Eurasian. When I say Eurasian, I mean Indo-Europeans, Arabs, and Europeans, physical and mental aggression. Mzee Mfudishi Dutamas Kai N. Haru Hassan K. Salim explains that our addiction is so severe because our subconscious core belief is that we fear overthrowing our enemies because we are so like our enemies, and therefore, to do so, we would destroy ourselves. The key being subconscious. You don't know it's there, but it's there like a program of a computer running its program and dictating our actions. Then Mzee Amar describes the spiritual and cultural and physical solution, returning to our way that we have forgotten. He describes the way as, on page 39, our way begins from coherent understanding. It is a way that aims at preserving knowledge of who we are, knowledge of the best way we have found to relate each to each to all, ourselves to other peoples, all to our surroundings. If our individual lives have a worthwhile aim, that aim should be a purpose inseparable from the way. Our way is reciprocity. The way is wholeness. Our way knows no oppression. The way destroys oppression. Our way is hospitable to guests. The way repels destroyers. Our way produces before it consumes. The way produces far more than it consumes. Our way creates. The way destroys only destruction. Further, he goes on to talk and define reciprocity. So on page 17, he says, reciprocity, not merely taking, not merely offering, giving, but only to those from whom we receive in equal measure, receiving, but only from those to whom we give in reciprocal measure. How easy, how just the way. Yet how easily, how utterly you have forgotten it. You have forgotten that justice is not ease. And here's a symbol of Ma'at, and one of the key principles within Ma'at is reciprocity. Here is Mzee Mfudishi Dutamas Kai and Haru K. Salim. And in his great work, Spiritual Warriors Are Healers, he explains that currently African people worldwide are dysfunctional, as we are inside out, upside down, and back to front in all areas of human activity, as we have forgotten the way. The 9 areas of human activity are defined by Mzee Neely Fuller Jr. in his influential book, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and/or action for victims of racism. So these 9 areas are economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Mzee Mfudishi demonstrates this dysfunction by comparing the spiritual values at the foundation of traditional African culture against those at the foundation of traditional Eurasian culture. We must remember that culture is the social behavior, ideas, customs, and attitudes of a people or social group. Culture guides what you do and why you do it. As we read through his comparison, it becomes painfully clear how much of our original African spiritual values have been buried beneath Eurasian ones for a large majority of our people. So here is this comparison. So I'll just go through it. We have African spiritual values against Eurasian spiritual values. So the first is that our aim of life as Africans is to recognize our oneness with nature, or wote, the all, for self-perfection. Compared to Eurasian, they use religion to control material wealth, land, and the minds of people. We enjoy thinking about the meaning of life as our value, the spiritual value. Eurasian spiritual value, they delight in defining the meaning of life. Third, we believe in the law of reciprocity, whereas compared to Eurasian spiritual values, they believe in everyone for themselves. Whereas Africans, the fourth spiritual value, we enjoy giving, compared to the Eurasian, where they believe in taking instead of giving. In the next African spiritual value, we believe in the ancestors and the spirit world as part of the whole, compared to Eurasian, where they believe this is it. Heaven and hell is on earth, so get it all now. And the sixth African spiritual value is that in the sunset years of life, we renounce the world and prepare for the hereafter, compared to the Eurasian, where they retire to enjoy the fruits of their labor on earth. The seventh spiritual value as Africans is that we have an optimistic view of existence, compared to the Eurasian, where they have a pessimistic view of existence. The eighth spiritual value is that communalism is a special virtue, compared to the Eurasian spiritual value, where individualism is the supreme virtue. The ninth African spiritual value is monotheism, the principle of the oneness of the hidden, absolute, formless, wote, or all, compared to Eurasian, where polytheism, mythology, and personification of divinity. The 10th African spiritual value is no guilt of our existence and no original sin. Compared to Eurasian, there's original sin with the woman at fault and at the bottom. The 11th is that we accept nature as it is, compared to Eurasian, where they aim to change nature according to their blueprint. The 12th African spiritual value is that we are by nature passive. The Eurasian spiritual value is they are by nature aggressive. The 13th African spiritual value is that we have burial or funeral rites, whereas compared to Eurasian, they have cremation funeral rites. African spiritual values, we believe life and death are part of our existence, where for Eurasians, they believe that death is the end and it is to be feared. The 15th African spiritual value is that we believe in the infinite now, Yesterday, today, and tomorrow are all in one. African people exist in time, but are not bound by it. Compare that to the Eurasian spiritual value. They live by time. It is important to control man's actions, so they are imprisoned by the exactness of time. And finally, the 16th spiritual value is that we have 12 months to get things done, as we come from a hot climate. The southern cradle. So we take our time. Compared to Eurasian spiritual value, they have only 3 or 4 months to get things done. It's the cold climate, the northern cradle. So they must do it right away. Seasons illustrates these Eurasian spiritual values further. So on page 6, it says, an insatiable urge drives them. Wherever there is life, even if it only be a possibility, the harbingers of death must go to destroy it. See their footsteps that they have left all over the world. Wherever they have been, they have destroyed along the road, taking, taking, taking. They have wiped the surface barren with their greed. The coming of the Eurasians to Africa was for our divine instruction and to aid our return to our way, to return to the principle of reciprocity and oneness with supreme consciousness. Further, the negative attitudes of the Eurasians in the passages I've just read reflect left brain thinking, the ability to separate, identify, and categorize things. Left brain thinking is epitomized by cleverness, to argue, verbal dexterity, the ability to influence others by logical expression, to gather information. However, is also to not understand that all things identified in the physical world have a duality. All contradictions are false. All things are linked via consciousness, influence each other, and have a purpose designed by supreme consciousness. It is only the right brain that has the faculty to perceive wholeness, cohesiveness, holistic connections, synthesis, reciprocity, and it is non-verbal and communicates knowledge and understanding by perception of images and emotions. It is the left brain that conceives of racism, the white inferiority complex, some people call white supremacy, materialism, lies, sexism, politics, feminism, misogyny, imperialism, enslavement, narcissism, selfishness, individualism, anarchy, religion, perception of good and bad, intolerance, sociopathy, psychopathy, depression, greed, etc. The Eurasian worldview is based on left brain Greek philosophy, which was bastardized Kemetic high knowledge. It is whole brain holistic thinking that developed meditation, yoga, the martial arts, divination, astral projection, multi-dimensional travel, plotting the stars for eons, civilization, the building of Heru Emaket, or as the French incorrectly called the Sphinx, the building of the pyramids across the world, the Great Zimbabwe, Vodon, Dagara, Kemetic Mystery System, Obeah, Ifa, Kandabole, Dogon, etc. An example of this, the left brain thinking, is at the Christian Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, Emperor Constantine led the war to enforce by good means or foul left brain thinking on all human beings, and begin by starting the coup to remove right brain and whole brain spirituality across the world and dominate all right brain or holistic brain led non-white cultures across the earth. So 2000 Seasons describes the effect of this onslaught on the psyche of African people. Introduction on page 14. He says, a people losing sight of origins are dead. A people deaf to purposes are lost. Under fertile rain, in scorching sunshine, there is no difference. Their bodies are mere corpses awaiting final burial. To explain, I believe Mzee Amar is referring to Africans that have lost their original concept of spirituality, the bedrock of how they express culture. Once this African spirituality was lost, their spirits dominated their minds with a left brain thinking, as I've just explained. So that is segregated thinking, left brain separating analytical or positional thinking. The belief that only the external world exists, that the natural state of humans is to be emotional and animalistic, and can only be changed by a divinity that is external to oneself, and in latter days, not a divinity but science. Hence, they cannot conceive that they are supreme consciousness, of the same quality but not the same quantity as the Creator. Therefore, one with all that there is and ever will be. That is African spirituality. Once this is not perceived by the subconscious mind, where our core beliefs reside, people can be swayed by false teaching that plays into their wants and desires of the physical self. This is invariably an easy path, a shortcut to achieve the pleasures of the physical self at the expense of others, and tuning out the higher self or oneness with supreme consciousness. "2000 Seasons" also describes the effect of African leadership, which vomits false teaching as they have adopted foreign spiritual values. So on page 95-96, it says, "You have yet to learn we are not a people to nurture kings and courtiers, the parasites feeding on human souls. You have yet to understand that these are recent excrescences. Excrescences are unnatural growths. And you have yet to learn why we have found no path to clean ourselves of them." He explains further in the novel on page 72. He gives the example of, in his worst nightmares, the king imagined himself caught in a whole society of unimpressed eyes, skeptical ears, staring, listening, and undeceivable. If ever the society became that way, it would be impossible for him to remain king. Such people would think a king a clown, refuse to support him, refuse to respect him, and ridicule the socially ordained rituals of reverence. So to explain, Mzee Amar is being very clear. Emperors, kings, corrupt presidents, and officials, etc., are not necessary if the people are in tune with their spirituality. We are our own leaders due to our connection to the all, and hence our connection to all existence through the collective consciousness. From this connection, we can rid ourselves of falsehoods spread by false parasitic leaders. Mzee Amar refers to these type of leaders as ostentatious cripples. These are those who were more interested in the 5 Ps. 1, power. 2, pomposity. 3, popularity. 4, privilege. And 5, property. They're more interested in those 5 Ps than fulfilling their true role as a symbol of creator man or creator woman that we all should be trying to attain, and being the servant of the people. A leadership of this type would not have a home if en masse the societies they led saw them for what they were, ostentatious in a physical sense and cripples spiritually. Again, Mzee Amar is referring to those Africans that have rejected African spirituality and actively work against traditional African culture. He stated that they do not exist to be converted, rather to stimulate and test those on the path to oneness with supreme consciousness. Mzee Amar also tackles why we have been fighting and resisting for so long with so few lasting successes. He writes on page 40-41. The character says, asking whether in our minds it would not indeed be better to change the nature that brought us conquerors as our guests, to learn a fitting ferocity and fight to keep our land, even if fighting degraded us into the soul twins of the desert predators, the white man. Here the character in the novel suggests that they use fire to fight fire, even if that changes them into the very people oppressing them. This is the tactic that Africans have been using for at least the last 2,745 years. It hasn't worked. In fact, it has failed spectacularly, with a number of short-lived successes over the millennia. An analogy for this would be the half-wise, that is, those Eurasians who have some understanding of supreme consciousness, but use this knowledge for selfish reasons, digging a very deep hole with a shovel. We Africans being thrown into the hole with a shovel and being told to dig our way out. An impossible task. We could only make the hole deeper. You cannot get yourself out of a situation using the same tools that got you there. However, if the Africans in the hole were given the correct tools, i.e. trained to know that their true essence is boundless and limitless, as they are divine beings having a divine human experiences. Further, if they train themselves to change their core beliefs, they will immediately realize that there is no hole, no shovel, and they have always been free. It is their acceptance of the illusion of segregative thinking that has allowed them to accept someone else's fantasy. Thus, this illusion becomes their reality. The Matrix. MZMR directs us to the correct spiritual tools that will put us on the long road back to our right minds. So in the introduction on page 15, he writes, "The reign of the destroyers has been long. It will be longer. But what is our present despair against the sharp abandonment of those first snatched away to waste? What puniness is this our anxiety against the howling agony of their murdered soul? Remember this, against all that destruction, some yet remained among us unforgetful of origins, dreaming secret dreams, seeing secret visions, hearing secret voices of our purpose. Further, those yet to appear, to see, hear, to utter, and to make. Little do we know what changes they will come among. Idle then for us to presume despair on their behalf, foolish when we have no knowledge of how much closer to the way their birth will come, how much closer than our closest hopes. Not all of our souls are of the nature to answer the call of death, however sweetened. Easy in these seasons to forget this too." So here MZMR is encouraging the audience not to entertain the illusion of despair and impotency regarding our spiritual amnesia. It is this amnesia which causes the negative condition we experience in this fourth dimension. Fourth dimension, because there's first of all 3 dimensions: up, down. Second, left, right. Third, back and forth. And the fourth, time. Despair and impotency are the powerful emotions the half-wise want us to feel, and they want us to be emotional, reactive, and animalistic. As then the personality, the ego, and the segregative thinking will dominate us, all of which will prevent us from remembering and surrendering to our divinity and thus make us easy to control. He reminds us that we are divine, limitless, and boundless, and therefore should not be conned by the concept of linear time, as there is only the present moment, as everything that has happened and will happen, is going to happen, is occurring in the now moment. He's communicating to the audience that the realigning with the way is happening all around us. From the past, spiritual teachings are being deciphered, used, and communicated. In the future, sages and spiritual warriors will be reincarnated, and in the present, he's referring to those of us sharing with each other right now. Spiritual adepts in ancient Kemet captured this view regarding despair and impotency when they wrote, "Complacency, regret, and sorrow are discouragers from evil. Know that you are gods with a divine destiny. Discouragers are transient distractions leading away from the path of light." Here is the cosmic force of Sakher, which is the understanding that the divine power is within you, and you can't be shaken. Now, I'd like to share this analogy with you. It's called the wave. It's here to understand some of these deep spiritual concepts. So the African spiritual concept that we are divine, limitless, and boundless is very hard to understand. I know this. However, a year ago, while meditating at my family shrine, my higher self, Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar is a Kemetic word which means the Lord of all, referencing our higher self, our higher spiritual self, revealed symbolism to me that would allow my conscious self to understand how we are all emanations or essences or productions of the all. It is revealed that our perception of life, the illusion we call reality, our personalities, bodies, memories, emotions, thoughts, and desires, in fact, anything we can touch, taste, hear, and feel in the fourth dimension is a mental emanation of the all. It was revealed that we could think of these mental emanations like waves on the sea. Therefore, my perception of life, my essence, made up of my spirit and my higher self, is that wave. A wave is only a projection or a manifestation of the sea, as it is made from it. It has the qualities of the sea, but not the quantity. But it would never be seen as separate, no matter the size of the wave, even if it was a tsunami. It is only a manifestation of the sea. It reflects the power, but is not greater than the sea. Eventually, that wave will crash or roll onto land, dissolve, and all of its energy will return to the sea and become indistinguishable from it. Therefore, this is how symbolically we are in relation to the all, as one of its emanations. As our individual essences are manifestations of the all, it is our divine purpose to have our divine spirit, our lower selves, i.e. our personalities, bodies, memories, emotions, thoughts, desires, and the physical form we project into this fourth dimension conform to our higher selves, Nebuchadnezzar. Symbolically, we can think of everyone we know, we meet, come into contact with, everyone that has ever existed and are yet to exist as waves, and necessarily expressions of the all, just like waves on the sea, as you can see in this picture. All of nature is also an expression of the all. The pain of existence arises because our personalities believe ourselves separate from the all and don't communicate with our higher selves, and only recognize and accept the physical interactions with the fourth dimension, a falsehood as incorrect as a wave being seen as separate from the sea. Peace and joy comes from understanding symbolically that we are a wave on the sea of the all, to feel this, to know this, and to return the energy gathered during this incarnation back to the all, because we all have been many incarnations. This isn't our first rodeo for any of us. This is the all experiencing itself. Therefore, as we are the all, we can access this knowledge and the knowledge of the ancestors from the sea of the all. This is how we make connections with our ancestors and the cosmic forces, the principles and powers. This knowledge is stored in the Akashic records. Akashic is a Hindu Kush word, which means ether, a realm, which we can access via transdimensional meditation. We can download that information while meditating from all experience, everything that has ever been, and the ancestors and spiritual forces. If in our incarnations we don't achieve this realization of our true relationship with the all, we will come back as another wave, rather than remaining one with the all, the aim. This explanation is just a tool to understand our true spiritual nature. It is the conforming to this true nature that will allow us to heal our psyches by resurrecting our African spiritual values. The resurrection of our African spiritual values will lead to our liberation by producing a culture guided by Ma'at. A culture guided by Ma'at is achieved by individually surrendering to the following Kemetic teaching. Speak Ma'at, do Ma'at. Ma'at equates as truth, harmony, balance, reciprocity, conforming to the natural order of existence and love of the all. Ma'at is not an intellectual exercise. You have to live it to express it and understand it. It is a way of life, in other words, a culture. So individually, it's being devoted to resurrecting from your subconscious your divine self. Subsequently, your actions and speech conforming to the will of your divine self. Showing deep respect towards the all, and discovering and following your divine purpose in this incarnation. That is Ma'at. When this culture of Ma'at is the foundation of all we do in economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war, we will achieve our liberation, as we will have returned to our way. Asante kwa kushirikiana nami. Thank you for sharing with me. I'd just like to show you these references. So these are things that I've mentioned during the presentation. So Ancestral Voices, Spirit is Eternal by Dalian Adolfo, a book. Definitely you can get this from their website, ancestralvoices.com. I highly recommend this. Ancestral Voices, Esoteric African Knowledge by Dalian Adolfo and Veranda Spence Adolfo, which is a DVD. And Ancestral Voices, Spirit is Eternal, Dalian Adolfo, Veranda Spence Adolfo, another DVD. Again, really goes into the origins of and what is African spirituality, but also practically how you express it, the rituals that you can begin and start on your journey. Absolutely a definite addition to your library and to your spiritual practice. Spiritual Warriors Are Healers by Mfudishi Jutimus Kar and Hassan K. Salim. The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism by Neely Fuller Jr. Temptias by Mutaj Speed, that's where the words of wisdom from Kemet were taken. And of course, 2000 Seasons. And that is the end of the presentation. So I can stop the sharing and hand over to you, Ndugu Tahaka.
Okay, thanks for that, Ndugu Imani. That was brilliant, a good insight into African spirituality. And now we have officially opened up the floor. So any questions and comments, we would love you to post them to Ndugu Imani, who would converse with you around. So while we're waiting for some questions to come in, African spirituality, just as a concept, I mean, I know there's people probably watching who would see African spirituality, would sort of keep it at arm's length because of the imagery that's being put around it. And instead, you know, they've embraced what's known as the Abrahamic faith, you know, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. Now, as we know, all those particular faiths are referred to as religions. Yeah, and most people are more familiar with the concept of religion. What would you say is the fundamental difference between religion, say, per se, and the spirituality? Because within the African continent, the true belief is always termed as a spirituality rather than a religion.
Well, spirituality is a way of life. It's a culture. Whereas religion is a form of rules to help you move towards spirituality, actually. Religion, I believe that the etymology of the word is legere, which means to link you back to your true self. Religion has unfortunately become a method of control. And it's not supposed to be, it's supposed to be the starting point, if you are in a religion, towards your religion, to your spirituality, which frees you. But religion is forms, rules, and structures for people to follow, and ends up capturing them and stops their thought and stops their consciousness. You know, any religion that says that you have to go to a particular house to you to experience the creator, the all. You have to speak a particular language. You have to dress a certain way. These are methods of control and cultural control. That's not religion. Religion is your way. The spirituality is your way of life. It's what you know. So as I went through the comparison between African spiritual values and Eurasian spiritual values that have been implanted on top of us now, and we don't and implanted in our subconscious. So yeah, like I say, an operating system that just runs in the background, and so that's why people, you know, by design, you know, I'm not just, you know, blaming African people and blaming ourselves, but by design, it has been implanted on us to make us move away from that, and it takes away our power. We give our power away to something outside of us. Those religions are saying it's outside of us, whereas African spirituality says, no, you are divine. The creator is you. You don't have the same quality. You don't have the quantity of the creator, but you have the same quality. The same things that make up the very cosmos, Mars, Jupiter, Alpha Centauri, that's within you. Yeah? You have the will. All things, the first law of Tahuti is all things are mental. We are emanations of the divine thought, and we have that as well. And so it's most important, if you want to control someone, you use religion because it limits their thoughts. Because once we become free and free ourselves from religion and have a way of life, a culture, a Martian way of life, there's nothing that we cannot achieve, because we are the creators of all existence. Existence is plastic. It can be molded according to what your highest excitement is. Whatever you are thinking, you're dwelling in your subconscious is what you'll manifest. So if you're fearing, whatever you fear, you'll manifest, even if you're not thinking about it. But that thought that you won't address, that thing you're trying to avoid, you'll manifest that. And if we don't believe that, then we have to just look at the Eurasians, where they say things like manifest destiny. Yeah, it's because they manifested the thought. They, first of all, is the thought that they would rule the world, and that's a thought, and that's putting that thought into the cosmos, and then you manifest it. The idea of our education is to limit our thoughts, so we don't know who we truly are. This is knowledge for all humanity. This is knowledge for all humanity. But as we, as the first ones here, we were the first ones to create this, and we have been lost to our way. And that's why Kwama says that we must return to our way. We will not be liberated until we liberate our minds. Marcus Garvey said it, Bob Marley said it. It's you liberate your minds, but it has to be a morally spiritual change. It can't be, you know, often when we talk about our liberation, we leave out moral. We never left out moral. My art is moral. We were the first ones. That's why every other race sat at our feet. That's why the Greeks said that their gods, went to Ethiopia to have meals with the Ethiopians, because they were the most moral on the face of the earth. But when we lost our way, and let me be clear, we lost our way before any other race came on the scene. We'd already started to lose our way. And that's why I talk about pantomime. It can look like it, but it has no meaning to it. There's no point in you having African spirituality or you having rituals and stuff, and you do not know what you're doing. Yeah, you have to understand it. You have to understand it intellectually, but then it must become a real thing for you. You must feel it. We're about feelings. You have to feel it and know it. You have to experience it. I can talk to I'm blue in the face, but until you experience it, until you go into self and you make connection with the all, make connection with the ancestors, you're not going to understand it. Yeah, but you don't be afraid of it because it's within you.
Right. Yeah, there's a question here. In addition to the references you've quoted, they're asking for a beginner at how they can learn. And are there any teachers?
There's, as I said, there's what the ones I referenced. I'm a teacher myself, so if you want to leave a contact, then I can do that. We can have a talk and see if it would help for us to work together and to help you along your path, because that's my role in this incarnation, to be a guide. Anything by Umfudishi Jutamas, as I said, watch. Kaba Kameni, Kaba Harawata Kameni on YouTube. Anything that he's watch him. Mama Baina Bello. Anything on her, watch her as well. These are great spiritual adepts and leaders that we have around. Yes, but yeah, Ancestral Voices is very good because it has lots of. They've built from a lot of different writers, and their references at the back that will help you on your journey. And you know what? As you start to ask questions, when you take one step to the ancestors take 10 to you. Your teacher will come. But first of all, understand this: the greatest teacher is you. This is in your DNA. This isn't outside of you. Once you start to meditate and learn how to meditate, you start to go into yourself, these things will come. That stuff that I talked about, the wave, that came from meditation. I'm not clever enough to come out of that and from my conscious mind. That came from deep within. There was something else that you popped up there. Was there another question?
No, that was just saying excellent. What's this? Okay, where can I get copies of 2000 seasons?
As I understand it, Mzee Pepekai, one of the greatest Black book distributors in Europe, as part of our organization, African Conquest Movement, he says that it used to be done by Third World Press, but now Akwa Ma is selling it himself because he had a problem with them. No, it wasn't Third World Press, another one. So there are copies of 2000 seasons. Archives and seasons are sometimes on the internet. Have a look, New Beacon Books. I don't believe Pepekai book distributions have any at the moment. Try to avoid Amazon if you can. If you can. I think there's even some people who have uploaded onto YouTube. They've a study group, they've gone to 2000 seasons, so they're just reading it out so you can listen to it. But yes, have a look around, type in Akwa Ma and see if he's got it. But it's in libraries. If you look at some good libraries, secondhand bookstores, look if you can find it. It's a thin book, but it's deep. I could spend 4 hours going over one quote in 2000 seasons. I have not come across a situation with Africans that 2000 seasons doesn't explain specifically. And how and it took me 27 years to understand the book. I warn you now, it's a deep book, and have a dictionary next to you when you're reading it. But you have to read it with spiritual eyes. It's like a poem. It's so beautiful. He wrote this when he was about in his 30s. That the ancestors were speaking for him. This book is an absolute classic, and is one of the steps for us to achieve our liberation.
Yeah, and I must say, as one of the PACM actual reading list, when people become members of the PACM, 2000 seasons was one of those books that was mandatory on the reading list to read. But as Ndugu Imani says, it's one thing reading it, and it's another thing being able to grasp the concepts. We know it's an ongoing thing, so it's one of those things that you can read once, and every time you look at it again, you'll see something else, and so it goes. It's just another door keep opening, another door keep opening. That's why the book is such groundbreaking and so brilliant.
Exactly. I did a workshop on 2000 seasons that Ndugu has been to, and it went into how many nights? Was it 9 we went to?
Yeah,
We said
it
it's
was
going to be 5, and it went on to 9 because
okay.
it's so deep. I had to scratch
It's
the
deep.
surface with this
It's deep.
presentation. This is just
It's
the surface.
It's
So
deep.
I do those workshops one-to-one with people because
Mhm.
it's spirituality is a personal thing. Yeah, I've done workshops in big groups and I've done workshops in one-to-one. It's a personal thing, and sometimes it's easier for people to do it one-to-one because it throws up stuff. Remember, this stuff is deep, and you have to transform. You cannot be spiritually and we liberate ourselves if we don't transform. We can't be the same person and think that we're going to liberate ourselves. And it has to start with you. It
All
starts
right.
with you because there is only you.
Okay. There's another point. I've heard it says before that, okay, African spirituality, and then people might say, well, where do I start? They heard of, say, for instance, Yoruba cosmology. They heard of what the
Mm-hmm.
Dogons have done. Now there's the works coming out of the Congo with various groups.
Yeah.
And, wherever you look in Africa, there's forms of spirituality. So
Mm-hmm.
what would you advise people? Because, it's we can say African spirituality, and then people might say, well, shall I
Yeah.
go and
It's
study
wide.
Yoruba cosmology, or shall I,
Mm-hmm.
you know, go to the Congo cosmology, or do they all
Mm-hmm.
match up in the
Mm-hmm.
end? So what would you
Absolutely.
say?
Absolutely. As explained from at the beginning, there's a
Mhm.
golden thread that runs through all African spirituality, and this is where the Europeans have do this trickery with language, and they say that this religion and these deities. No, no, no. Those points I went through at the beginning are in all of those that Ndugu just talked about, and others. They're all there. They've said in different languages. They're all there.
Mhm.
You the one that I study many, and the main one that speaks to me is Kemetic. Yeah, but it's what I was drawn to. You go to what you are drawn to. So if you're drawn to Dogon, go that way. If you're drawn to Yoruba, go that. If you're drawn to Akan, yeah, go that way. It's the one that resonates with you. Yeah. Um, so there is no wrong way. There is no wrong or right. Yeah. You will find your path. Yeah. Um, and you don't have to speak the language. It's good if you can speak the language, absolutely, because there's vibration to us speaking African languages, and so we should try to speak an African language. But Africa is within you. Yes. If you go along that path, you will find your way. Yeah, and you have the ability to explore that, understand the rituals, and as you become more confident, because you are a generating machine. You are a reality generating machine. You can create rituals, just like I had to create the ritual at the beginning of changing of changing energy. This is you will have the confidence to do that. So um, look on the web, talk to other people, go along to get references from people who you can trust to say, well, this is a good practitioner. Go to that practitioner and things like that. Read up on them. There's plenty of stuff on the web where people, as Ndugu said, they're looking that way. But it's what resonates with you. Yes, where you're
Okay.
called to.
Mhm. Mhm.
Always go with your gut, your third eye. Yes, Tahuti. Always go with that, and then follow that. Me personally, I've got a little bit of this here, a little bit of that there. I've got a little bit of this, and it all works. It all works. We don't do dogma. That's the Abrahamic faith. We
Mhm.
don't do it. It's a
Mhm.
way of
Mhm.
life. If you're doing it because it's because someone told you that you have to do Yoruba or something like that, that's dogma and that's religion and that's moving away from the way. It's how you live and how you breathe. Yes, and you can get the answers from everything. There's an ancient Cometian a saying that says you can get wisdom from the maid at the grindstone. Don't think it has to be some way. You can get you. I've had spiritual enlightenment from hearing a song and suddenly a spiritual awareness. So once you start to open up your consciousness and you say to yourself, I wish to know, the teacher will
Mhm.
appear.
Yep. That's right. Hold on, there's a point coming up here. Okay, let me see that one.
Ah, yeah, thank you, Shakara. Greetings.
Bring up the webs. Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, thank you very much. Pearl Ant Books. Yes, please use Pearl Ant Books and get and get 2000 seasons.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now there's another point. Because a lot of our people are very entrenched in back to religion again. So they would argue to you, as you use the phrase, till they're blue in the face as to why, you should be a Christian or you should be a Muslim, and nowadays you should follow the Jewish faith or whatever. Now, one of the books I'd like to highlight was by the brother who actually thought about Kwanzaa, Maulana Turanga.
Yes.
And he actually edited the book called the Hosea.
Yes.
Now, what I found fascinating with the Hosea, and that's the Hosea, Husia.
Yes.
And that's what I find fascinating with that. I remember attending many of the funerals, weddings, anything that's kind of religious. There was a religious aspect to it. And I would see people reading from this book at first, and I was curious, what is it? Because what they was reading, as somebody who was, most of to a certain extent in the church.
Sorry, Ndugu, can you say that again? The
sound went out. Sorry. Yeah, I'm going to say the Hosea. When I heard readings from it, as somebody who was, like many of us, brought up in the church to a certain extent, a lot of it sounded familiar.
Yeah.
A lot of it sounded familiar. So I eventually got a copy of it and started, reading through it. And then bearing in mind, this predated Christianity, Islam, and Judaism by thousands of years. You say, well, there's such a thing called plagiarism, surely. Because you can see it was just they just plagiarized ancient Egyptian text. And that's basically what it came about. So if people have a chance, if you're not familiar with the book, the Hosea, please have a look at it, especially if you're still holding on to Islam or Christianity, because you'll be in for a surprise.
Absolutely. From ancient Kemet, we get the idea of the Christ, which is our soul, being resurrected. We get the idea of the Jesus being hunted by Haru, which is our Set and Haru, her son, having to hide from her evil uncle Set. Yes, we have the 42 negative confessions, from which you can take the 10 commandments. Have to remember that Moses, a black man, if there was such a person as a Moses, was a Kemetian priest. And so he was taken from there. What he was teaching was Kemetic high knowledge. Where else would he get it from? Yeah, there's things, even what we think come from Hindu, like say karma. In ancient Kemet, it's mescanet. You reap what you sow. Yes. In ancient Kemet, they say, everything we do is sowing, and all our experiences are harvest. Same thing. So these concepts. The first story, the first spiritual story that is older than Kemet and older than Tarsetin comes from the Hutu and Twa people, which the racists call pygmies. Is the story of Asar, Aset, and Haru. Yes, the original Trinity. Yes, where the Christians got hold of it, and that's when 325 AD. This is when the big propaganda happened. And let me be clear, it wasn't just propaganda by teaching; it was by the sword. Yeah, that you had the Trinity and you had Al-Sar, God. You had the Holy Spirit, which was Al-Set, yes, and the Son, Haru. They took the woman out of it. And the Ethiopians, when they were the Ethiopian bishops of the early church, when they heard that, they said, "That's rubbish. What are you talking about?" And they left. They left. And then what Gabriel Constantine did, he was total gangster. What he did is he took out, he got his soldiers to get their swords off, cut some bishops' heads, and said, "Now let's start this again. We're going to take the woman out of it." This, and they said, "Yeah, okay." But yeah, this is what is taken, because he wasn't a Christian. He had the Roman faith. He believed in Jupiter and so on and so forth. But he knew that African teaching, he had a dream and said, "In this sign we will conquer." Yeah, the cross. Yeah, which is where we get the Ark. The Ark comes from, the Ark is the originator of the cross. But that is from that he knew that with this indoctrination, with this powerful energy, if you bastardize it and change it and put our way of life, this left brain thinking isn't wrong in and of itself, but left brain thinking out of balance, not in line with my art, is where we see the world today. And that's what we have got. So once they knew that they could use this, the kernel of it, the kernel of the truth, and then put a whole load of other things that will capture people. Yeah. So, if you want to tell a lie, you want to tell a good lie, have a kernel of truth in it, so people will accept it. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. In the film The Matrix, they say that in order for the human beings to accept the Matrix, subconsciously, yeah, they had to agree to it. Once there was a choice and you agreed, then you would take it on board. And that's the same thing here. There's a subconscious agreement to go along with it. And this is the stuff that we've got to unpick for ourselves. And you can only do this from doing that internal spiritual work and identify these programs, these thoughts, these operating systems that are going in your subconscious, so you can free yourself. Otherwise, this is why we keep on looking at Africans and we say, how come we just keep on falling for the crap? How many times does it have to be said? How blatant do they have to be in our face, and we still keep on getting it wrong? That's because we've got this programming in our subconscious, and if we go back to our way, we can brush off the Eurasian values and come back to our own African spiritual values, and then free ourselves.
That's so true. The other point I want to touch upon now is in terms of our spirituality and how it's under attack.
Yeah.
For instance, if we look at the Haitian Revolution and why they were successful, we will find that from the beginning to the end, African spirituality played a fundamental role. That was the thing that cut across everything. And that's why they were successful. Since then, even before, but particularly since then, I think the Europeans, because remember, they were referring to the Haitians as superhumans, because the feats they were conducting, they could not, it didn't seem possible. They could not comprehend how these people possess. So hence you got from there voodoo, which was the version of African spirituality that the Haitian was used when the gods, was demonized.
Yeah.
And ever since then, now, what kind of concerned me to a large extent was how on the continent itself, through Christianity and Islam in particular, African spiritual shrines have been attacked, have been destroyed, priests are systematically being butchered, and that's something that I think most people should be aware of if they're not. There's a massive attack on African spirituality on the continent itself. And a lot of it is coming out of Rome or the Westminster here, or could be, Saudi Arabia and stuff. I mean, they're fueling, and we can see right across, especially the Sahel region of Africa, northern Nigeria, an out-and-out attack on African spirituality in terms of, because I think they realize the power of it. And if African people are to liberate themselves, that's gonna be the main tool once again. So there's an out and out attack on African spirituality. And if you want to just highlight a bit of
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said it perfectly. You know, some of our one of our great spiritual sages, Mzee Buzamalu Trader Umqua from South Africa. He was, you know, he was attacked, had his fingernails pulled out, beaten. You know, he was in Southern Africa because of his faith and because of what he taught, and that's happened, you know, in so many different places. And then it is that attack. It is that attack that you do see a growing rise in African spirituality. And one of the things of this COVID situation is that a lot more people are looking into the herbal and looking into our traditional beliefs and starting to explore that. But yeah, the evangelical churches in West Africa and the Islam on East Africa, and the attack is definitely there, because I know the power of it. It is a battle for our minds, and the battle for the Haitian Revolution. Reason why they were so powerful is they didn't fear death. They said, because you can't kill me. When they killed Bookman, who was one of the first first leaders, when he killed Bookman, he said, I'll come back as mosquito. And that's exactly what did happen, because with the subsequent armies, with their British, their French or Spanish, died in droves from disease. You know, there's stories, and Maya Mzee Baina Bella tells them in her books and her lectures about how mothers would go into battle with their babies and even push their babies into the cannons.
Cannons, right?
Into the cannons, because it said, you know, because I'm not this. When you have this understanding, you lose the fear. Yeah, and the fear is powerful. It is powerful. It's not easy, and you have to go in to remove it. But when you remove this fear of this losing this, then what can stop you? And that is the power. This is where they get the idea of zombie, because you know, of Haiti. Because if you look back in like the 30s, in the 30s and 40s, all the zombies films were set in the Caribbean in Haiti.
Yep.
They are absolutely frightened that African people will understand about the power of Boudon, Obia. Anybody from Jamaica knows that, you know, that if you're growing up in Jamaica and you hear the word Obia, even myself, as growing up in Jamaica, I had to get past that fear of saying that word, because it's you know in West Africa, juju, you know. But this is natural science, and it's been denigrated, you know, to make us run away from it. Yes, but when you break it down to the values, as Mfudishi Jutimas has, you understand the difference between what we believe and what they believe, and how this has been supplanted on top of us. And that's why, you know, they don't have to do it themselves as they did for different enslavement. They can just set us in the direction and set us off running, because you're being controlled. You're being controlled. And as Donna Barra, I saw her come up there. Greetings, Dada. Yes, it is in their power. It's your true essence. It's the essence of all things. And here's the thing. Our enemies are part of natural law. They're supposed to stimulate us to action. They came because they're supposed to stimulate us to be who we're supposed to be. We're supposed to bring balance back to the universe. That's our role. And when we don't do our role, we suffer the consequences. And it starts with you. It starts on your own path. But they are there, you know, it's like, you know, the things that come against us, they're not bad or evil. They just are. You are the creator. You're manifesting this. And the question is, why? It's not about, you know, you decided to come into this existence in this time, with a time where there is white inferiority complex and racism and police brutality and institutional racism. So you decided to be incarnated into this. It's not about, you already made this decision. The question is why. You're supposed to be a light in the universe. So you're supposed to fulfill your role.
Okay. Now, one of the things I want to bring up as well is how well do you think our adversaries understand African spirituality? The reason I'm saying that, Anthony Broder wrote a book called Plutoma, I think Egypt under Plutoma. You know, whereas when Washington, D.C. was being planned out, if you look at Washington, D.C. and say ancient Kemet, certain parts, there's a replica. Yes. As you know, in Washington, D.C., you have the big obelisk and the way things are set out. You go to any court of law and we see the balance, the scale. Everywhere we look in Western society, we see imagery of ancient Kemet. A lot of the rituals they go through, you know, have aspects of what the ancient Kemetician did embedded in it.
Absolutely.
So my question is, how well do you think our enemies understand? Because let's face it, it's African spirituality when we boil down to it.
Absolutely.
You know, and they cannot move, they cannot put up a building. Anything they do is controlled by that. So I just want to try and ascertain their depth of understanding, one, and two, if their depth of understanding is such that they are then trying to prevent or woo Africans away from that, how do you think they are managing to achieve all that?
Well, as I said, during the presentation, the ancient Kemetians called them the half-wise. So they have an understanding of it, but because of their development in the northern cradle, they don't understand it fully, but they know it's powerful. And so that's why many of them, when going into Kemet, there's Masonic lodges, which is ancient Kemetian knowledge. This is the stuff that they try and hide it from us, and even modern day make us run away from it. So people say the Illuminati and the eye of, and people running away from the eye. What I wear around my neck, the eye of Haru. Yes. It was on the presentation. This isn't evil stuff. This is ours. They have some knowledge, but not the whole knowledge, and they understand that it's powerful. They understand that it's powerful, and they're trying to absorb it. That's why they won't give back our stuff. When we, saying to African countries, no, Nigeria, you cannot have your stuff. You cannot have back the Benin bronzes. You cannot have this. Well, I thought you said that we were primitive and this thing has no power and has no use. But and those African countries have skyscrapers. What do you mean you can't build a museum to look after it? Of course we can. Yeah, but they know it has power, it has spiritual power, and they need to keep us away from it because they know how we use it. They have not forgotten the Asian Revolution. Yes, no guns, no money, and defeat the world powers of that time: England, France, and Spain, and create an African empire of freedom, as Dessalines called it. They understand some, so that's why they will have the Tekken or Cleopatra's needle all over. They'll have it in Rome. They have it in Istanbul. They have it in Washington. They have it in London. They have it there, and that is Osiris, Alsar, and Haru's penis. That's a black man's penis that you got there, pointing to a nut. They know that they have basic understanding of it, but not deep. Not deep. If they did, then we wouldn't see the world that we do now, because it's using it for selfish reasons. They know manifest destiny. Yeah, all these people. There's up, the Archbishop of Canterbury doesn't believe in Christianity. It's an intellectual exercise. He most probably is a Mason. He most probably, with their rituals, is using some African spirituality, because they know that this is cosmic science. And they will use it, and they use it, and they understand that this is why we have in the New Age community the ideas of the law of attraction. Yeah, what you manifest in your mind, you can create and call into you. You can move to another dimension where that thing already is and bring it to you. That's us. That's our teachings. That's our teachings wrapped up. Yeah, but if you go in the New Age and you ask the people who go in the New Age community, and you say they'll talk about Islam, they'll talk about Hindu, they'll talk about Zoroastrian, they'll talk about this and that of ancient cultures, they'll talk about the Incas and stuff, and they stop dead at Africa, because Africa doesn't have any spiritual tradition, obviously, apparently. But they're using our concept. The idea is to hide it away from us. Because what they do know is that whenever we have beaten them, whenever we have fought them, when we've used African spirituality, we've won, as you said. And it's about that becoming established. If we use it and then put it to one side, yeah, and it doesn't become the culture, and it becomes the basis of those 9 areas, then that's why we have successes, but it doesn't last, or there's so few, because it's not being inculcated into the function, into the culture. And that's what we got to get back to, because this period that we're talking about now, it is a blink in the eye of how long Africans have been on the face of the earth. This is the blink in the eye. It's a short period, but if you are fooled into manifesting this reality, then it feels like there is no other reality but this.
Yeah, true. And the other point I'd like to touch on, in terms of, I think there's a lot of people every day using African spirituality without having the awareness that they are doing it. Meaning that, as you know, when take for instance the chattel slavery, the period when people were taken and they had Christianity forced upon them. We know that beyond that, they kept on their beliefs. The African spirituality survived. We just have to, you mentioned Jamaica and Pocomania and Obia. People go, yes, you see, it's, they use the name of Jesus, but beyond that, they doing rituals and carrying out something which, Christianity had nothing to do with. Likewise in Africa, because I've seen personally, I'll refer to the country of Senegal. When I first went there, I was told it's 95% Muslim and they're staunch Islamic. So, you kind of said, okay, this is a very conservative society, I better watch myself, and so forth. And then just through observation, I started to notice a lot of things happening. For instance, I remember I was staying near the sea, and every morning I would see these people enter the sea and be pouring milk into the water. And then the first thing struck me, that don't look very Islamic to me. And then throughout the whole society, you'll be seeing things. And then it started dawn on you. African spirituality is alive and well, in terms of it never went away. Yes, it's only been camouflaged to a certain extent, so that they could carry it on at any particular time. And what fascinates me and it's actually called the Holy City. And there's a brother Marabou by the name of Sheikh Amadou Bamba. Now, he came to fame that when the French was trying to colonize that part of the world, you know, he mobilized the fighting force and he became a thorn in their flesh. And he fought them more or less to a standstill. Till in the end, they had to like back off and just leave him be. And then he created this city of Touba. When you first go there, you know, you have the impression this is very Islamic and very, when you start to look into it, you see African spirituality is alive and well, but not in the form that we are accustomed to. So when we say African spirituality, we will think of a certain, you know, certain rituals, certain procedures, and think that's African spirituality. You look at other things like certain things that the Muslims are doing or the Christians are doing, I think that can't be African. But when we dig deep, or you know, just dig below the surface, we see that it's alive and well. And I can tell you, I talk to Africans from all over Africa, and that's one thing that's within them. It's just part of their DNA, is their spirituality. Don't matter where you take them. I mean, what's fascinating about Touba now, that city was founded by Sheikh Amadou Bamba, and you have a group of people there called the Bifas. Now, the Bifas are people that go, they wear locks, so you can distinguish them. And to them, that's their holy place of pilgrimage, not Mecca, where all the other Muslims are making their way to say Mecca. They don't. They make their way to Touba. And you know, so that's the only thing I like to say. That it's like it came as a great surprise to me, but it was very encouraging to see a lot of them things was doing, because my wife always says to me that, you know, a lot of people talk about African spirituality, but when they see it in reality, a lot of them don't know what they're seeing.
Yeah.
Because it's just a way of life to a lot of them. Things will be done, and you'll be wondering, oh, why they're doing that? I wonder what's behind that. I wonder what's behind that. And when you scratch away the Islam or scratch away the Christianity, you see it's a daily practice. It's alive and well. It was just, like I said, a mechanism of survival. Because, you know, with the Arabs, you either submit or die.
You submit or die.
With the Christianity, same. He was beaten to death. So people had to come up with clever ways to keep their spirituality alive while they're giving the impression that they're going along with whatever is there.
Or commerce, you know, it makes good sense. If you want to trade, then you need to, you know, be, you know, of that religion. I remember in the Pentecostal church, growing up in the Pentecostal church and seeing people go talk in tongues and be in spirit. You go to a ritual in Africa, it's exactly the same thing. Yeah, when somebody is possessed by a spirit and they're prophesying, it hasn't left us. It's in our DNA. However, if it's not recognized and if it's not being used for your liberation, so if you're doing it, but you don't know why you're doing it, and it doesn't lead you to, you know, to shake off the oppression of others, so you still have it. I mean, there's many people who are Christians or Muslim will go on the quiet to the shaman, or go to the herb person to be healed. So, you know, so it's there, you know, it's, you know, Maya Bello from Maya Mama Bayana Bello says that, you know, that in Haiti, the voodoo didn't go anywhere. You may be the Christian, but it's the way of life. It's how you eat. It's how you think. It's a way of life. But you can still see the confusion that is there because it's there. It's in your culture, but you can't recognize it. And you've got to distill it. You've got to take it out. Yeah. And that's what 2000 Season is saying is, you know, you can speak the language. Your feet can touch African soil every day of your life. And you can do practices that is African spirituality. But if you have not gone back to our way properly, and that is not being part of your religion, then, as he says, you know, people deaf to purposes are dead. Yeah, you can still have these things, but you can still be oppressed. You can still be confused. Yeah, so somebody who may well pour libation and don't even know they're pouring libation could still be part of a mob that goes chase down a shaman and kills them.
That's a perfect example because I remember growing up as a child. You know, I would watch my grandfather before he took a sip of anything, he'll pour a little bit on the ground.
Yeah.
And I bet if you was to sit him down and question him, integrate him, what is the purpose behind that? He might say something we have always done.
Exactly.
You know, we have always done it. But you say, why did you do it? Why? Why? What's it for? I don't know. Something we have always done.
Always done.
What I'm saying is is in you, and I believe African people everywhere, no matter where they are, it's in them, and they're carrying out aspects of their spirituality every day.
Exactly.
Without recognizing what it is. So it's just a matter of fine tuning. And that's why I'm glad for things like Kwanzaa. Just mentioned, you know, tragically, Sister Jan, who passed away.
Yes.
Part of her role in the Kwanzaa put in by the PACM was to actually light the lighting of the Kanara with the children. You know, every year she did that. And it heartens me to see how something like Kwanzaa have grown. Because when I came into the organization, yes, it was being practiced. Well, it's been practiced since 1966, as Franco put it in place. But over the years, I've seen it has grown. Where we held Kwanzaa, it's outgrown the space. Numerous amount of times we had to move or at different times. And in 2016, on the 50th anniversary of Kwanzaa, an amalgamation of groups came together and we held it down in Clapham, in Hackney. And the venue held 700 people. And we filled it without much difficulty. And, you know, and that was just in London, just in North London, say North and East London, the bulk of the people came from. So we can see people are in search of their spirituality, because surely when we talk about, even when we look at Marcus Garvey, and when you say what the Garvey said when they was about to lock him up in Atlanta.
Yes.
Garvey said, precisely, if I die in prison, don't worry, I'm still with you. So he understood.
He understood.
You know, he understood perfectly African spirituality. You know, it's not the end. You're not dying. You're just transitioning.
You're transitioning.
You're just transitioning throughout life. And you know, and what I found fascinating, I used to attend a few of the classes by the Bundo Dia Congo, and that's looking at the Congo cosmology, and it was fascinating. You know, after getting an insight into that, your outlook totally changes.
Exactly.
Your outlook changes. Whereas you would see before, people was afraid to die. Death is finished. You know, you're going back to your old Sunday school days. You're either going to heaven or you're going to hell. And if you go to hell,
that's it. Lakes of fire,
everlasting burning.
Yeah,
so
that's pitchforks.
Appearing to you. No, you look at African spirituality showing you're transitioning. And in fact, when they show you the whole cycle, only a quarter of that cycle is lived in the physical. Maximum.
Exactly.
That's maximum is lived in the physical. All the other 3/4 is lived in the spiritual.
Exactly.
You know, when you start to have that concept, make you look at things totally different.
There's a great teacher on YouTube called Kasatma Keperu, and how he describes it about transitioning and our experience is our expenses. You imagine your little finger. This little tip of your finger is you in the physical realm. The rest of you is you in that spiritual world and those other dimensions. And that's where they want to limit us to. That's how much power we have. And it's that coming into that understanding, as you said, of you opening up your consciousness to your true power, that you know that you can manifest as you wish, as long as it's within your divine purpose, what you agreed to experience. None of us is here by chance. Everyone has a divine parents, and you're here to do something. And it's to understand that and to fulfill that. If you don't, you keep on coming back again and again. But your divine spirit understands that this is a play. This is a play. And everybody else is an avatar in your play. They're actors in your play. You're here to express, because you are the creator. You know, you can't be killed. You know, how can you kill the creator? How can you kill the creator? You're just a divine aspect of the creator having a human experience to learn something, to bring that back to the seat of the all, so to speak. But yes, Kwanzaa has, you know, the principle of the Kwanzaa, you know, the Nguza Saba, the 7 principles. Umoja, unity. Kuchikagulia, self-determination. Ujima, collective work and responsibility. Ujama, cooperative economics. Nia, purpose. Kwamba, creativity. Imani, faith. And he created it without saying that it's not spirituality, because he knew it'd run away people if he said this is spirituality. So it's not religious. It's non-religious, but it is. These are African spiritual because it's a way of life. If you live this, it's spiritual. It's a way of life. It is spiritual. It is spiritual. It's not a religion, but it's a spiritual way of life. And he knew he had to sell it in that way. And that's a beautiful way for people to start to explore through Kwanzaa. It's a good way to start. It's a good way to start. But yes, you know, this is beautiful that people are using it. And you know, when we talk about death, with, you know, the sad passing of Dada Jan, but really, as you said, it's transition. You know, even it's, you know, because energy cannot be destroyed; it can only be converted. Yeah, and so we shouldn't really mourn, because it's really us and our loss of that. Really, she hasn't gone anywhere. She's just transitioned. And you know, and if it's you know, and her energy has now gone up into Akashic records, and we, where we have our connection with spirituality, can communicate with her, not in the way of like, you know, ghost. Oh, there's a ghost, you know, coming to see you. No, through your direct connection through consciousness, you can download her experiences and download, and then you can receive help. But it comes in ways of feelings and premonitions and words that you don't even know that it's coming out of you. You don't feel it as something, it just comes out of you and just pops in your head. And this is our connection with our ancestors, and connection with all things, as that is the African way of things. Everything is connected. Everything is complementary. It's only the European value that has right and wrong, left and right, up and down, dark, you know, day and night. No, it's all one. It's all one. Everything is a spectrum on everything. There's a polarity to everything. There's gender to everything. The only and there's polarity to everything, and there's a rhythm to everything. So you know, we may be over here in our experience, but the pendulum will swing the other way. The only difference is how quickly will it swing, and that is partly because your divine destiny, what you're supposed to experience, and you're opening yourself up to your consciousness, means how quickly that will move. But you start making this move, and things will be revealed to you. I think there were some more comments on there. Any more questions from people?
No, I'm looking. No, there wasn't. Let's see. Not direct question. No, okay. I think we have looked at all the ones that came up. But well, time's up on us again. But you know, that was fascinating, and I'm sure a lot of people listening, because I can see the numbers are still up, and I'm sure some of, you know, people are just curious. Because again, it's a area that sometimes you don't even know what to say. You're listening, you know, you just come here to absorb, because you're being, you know, we've been born into a world, we're being so brainwashed. We've been told certain things, everything around us, everything that governs our lives, that shows that, you know, we hear talks of great faiths: Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, Judaism, Zoroastrianism, Buddhism, and all of those, you know, ironically, they're saying they're told non-African.
Mm-hmm.
None of them had their origin in Africa. What Africa had was what? Fetishism, right? They're
Yes.
heathens, they're animists, all these kind of terms, as if it's devalued. But as time go on,
That's it.
as time go on, we can see that those things are being shown for what they really are. Because
Exactly.
just before you round up, I just like to say that our, Elder Beanie, who
Mm-hmm.
again, just wish him the best, he's on the mend.
Absolutely.
And as you know, every 2 years they used to go down to the Congo,
Mm.
and they're in touch with a spiritual group in the Congo. And this certain revelations came, and it was put down put down in book form.
Mm.
And when the word got out that brother had a revelation, it's been written down. Next minute, I heard the Jewish rabbis turned up.
Say again, the sound went out.
Sorry. Next minute, I heard once they found that this
Mm-hmm.
revolution had happened in the Congo,
Mm-hmm.
you had Jewish rabbis turning up.
Mm-hmm.
You had the Roman Catholics turning up. You had all manner of people turning up, demanding a copy of that book.
Demanding
A copy of the book. When on
they has some
the
link to it.
flip side, we are told Africa has nothing to offer. There's no faith. There's nothing of any value. And suddenly, they're down there demanding, we know there's a revelation has happened down here, and we want access
Exactly.
to this
The half
knowledge.
wise.
That's it.
Wise. They can't use it, but they know it's powerful.
They know it's powerful.
I saw one picture that there's a mosque in Egypt, and it's built in the temple of one of the Kemetian temples. Now, you know that Islam, you mustn't have idolatry. You mustn't have any image of God. You mustn't have, there's only one Allah and stuff like that. But you won't knock it down because you know it's a seat of power. You know it's about opening of your consciousness, and they want it. So once your eyes are opened up, you see the contradictions and the hypocrisy and the lie, because it's all about making you believe their illusion become your reality. But once the scales come off your eyes, you start to see it, and you start to see you're just lying because you got all our stuff and you won't give it back to us. So. Asante.
There was another point here. Okay. Childhood viewed in comparison. Okay. Never seen that one.
Yeah, in comparing African spirituality with religion, how his childhood viewed in comparison. For example, a romantic and authoritarian. So I think what the kindred is saying is, about how. I think he's saying that the idea of religion compared to African spirituality is romantic, and it's authoritarian, whereas spirituality is about freedom. It's opening your consciousness. It doesn't restrict you. It's your way of life, because all things are part of spirituality. All things are African spirituality. All things are connected. This is the understanding of existence. So nothing is against you. Nothing is actually against you. Everything is there to teach you. It's your perception of it. One of the things that I pass on to people is, and it's said many times in many different ways, but it's true. It's not what happens to you. 10% is what happens to you. 90% is how you think about it. It's how you perceive it. If you see it as destruction, then it's going to be destruction. If you see it as an opportunity to learn, because what we must be doing is using our spiritual muscles. The more you use it, the stronger you get. It's the same principle: as above, so below. There's no difference. If I want to make my body stronger, what do I have to do? If I pick up some weights and I use the lightest weights, I'm not going to get any stronger. I'm not going to build my muscles. I have to have resistance. There has to be something that I'm resistant against to build up the strength. So using the gravity to build my muscles. The same thing for our spirituality. There has to be something that is leading us to our own, to our true selves. It's not against us. It's there put as a way to help us, because nothing is outside of us. If something is outside of us and is more powerful, then you're saying that thing is God. That thing is the creator. That thing is more masterful than you. It's not. It's all within. It's all within us. And I would say the other thing is that that when we have questions and we want to quieten ourselves, then meditation is the key in understanding and having answers for things that we don't understand. The other is the oracles, using the cowrie shells, using bones, using a tarot and oracle cards, having someone do a divination for you, learning how to do it yourself so you can understand and unpick, and it's not outside of you, it's speaking to you inside, the divinity within you, to give you the answers, because we're too left brain. We're too much like, this is what Invocations said, that we're so like our enemies. We're scared to overthrow them because it means destroying ourselves, because the subconscious programming means we're very close. We're very, very, very close. There's one more thing. It's here. Yes, I think it's here. Yes. Let's say about Marcus Garvey, and I said it last time when we was talking about Marcus Garvey in his School of African Thought, or the Message to the People, when he talked about spirituality. And let's see if I can find it. Yes. So everything that I was saying there, listen to what Marcus Garvey said in his right to me. He said about spirituality. Man never dies. Nothing dies. Man is made of body and spirit. Spirit is God. It is intelligence. The body of man is matter. It changes from living matter in the man to other matter in the soul. It is always the same matter. It doesn't die. It changes. When man sleeps and passes away in the flesh, he goes to earth that lives on, out of which other men and things are formed. You are related to the flower, the beautiful rose, the trees, the fish, and other animals, just as you are related to God. Deep African spiritual thought right there. Marcus Garvey was very clear on
yeah. Okay, then, and Ndugu Imani, I think, we run out of time again. So I thank all the viewers for tuning in.
Asante sana, asanteni sana.
Yeah, and I hope that this session has at least raised a few questions for those who would like to do further research into African spirituality. Ndugu Imani has left quite a few references which you can refer to. But it's a journey well worth undertaking, because, as I'm saying, it's part of our DNA. So whether we think so or not, we are spiritual beings, and we are using aspects of our spirituality every day. Because I remember my mother was one of those persons who would just have an intuition and say, I saw something.
Exactly.
And then lo and behold, could be a year, 2, 3 years later, it happened.
Exactly.
And I just sort of said, wow, and people, because it's in, and she never knew. She said, I just keep getting these things. I don't know why. I don't know nothing of, and it's part of there's African spirituality, and there's many, many, many people like that. Okay, so I think we have looked at this before. Yes, we have looked at that before. Now we have looked at that before. I thought it was not a question. So, yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
Asante.
Okay.
Karibu, you're welcome. Karibu. I would say that if people are more interested, Pan-African Congress movement, as an organization, people can join, and we teach on African spirituality. If you have questions, or you want to be contacted, if on the YouTube channel, when there's the comments, don't put your details there, but say you'd like to be contacted in some way, and then Ndugu Tahaka or myself can see that, and we can get in contact with you if you want to, explore deeper, and I can have a conversation with you. Yes, but it's an honor to speak, and it's an honor to share, and I hope thank you very much for listening, and I hope it's helped people and started them on their journey. And if they're already on their journey, just confirm that you're on the right track and continue and grow in your power. Yeah, because that's how, once we go in our power, we affect the vibration of all the cosmos, and we will help ourselves to elevate and to be in that higher vibration and be who we truly are.
Okay, that's brilliant. So now I'll just ask you just to change the vibes and close this out.
Okay. So we started our session by Maba Diliko, Nishati, changing energy. And so now I'm going to close it, and by playing the triangle chime. And yes, I'll play it 9 times. 9 times, because Spirit says play that 9 times, because 9 is for letting go of things that are no longer useful for us. It's time for us to come into ourselves and let go of the psychological programming and heal our psyches. I can tell you from personal experience, it's until you heal the holes in your psyche, that's when you start to come into your power and actually become more into yourself and start your journey really truly. What I'll ask is that if you close your eyes, breathe deeply, and we think of gratitude of the ancestors that we've called, and the cosmic forces, the powers and principles and powers that we called into our presence. They can't stay with us. They need to go back to their own realms. But asking that they go back into their realms with our intentions to help us manifest our objectives. And of course, we're giving thanks to the All, who is part of us, our Lord of all, the Nebuchadnezzar within us. So we're giving thanks and gratitude, and ask them to take those intentions with us, and take those ancestors to communicate, guide us, and help us to manifest our objectives and be who we truly are. So I'll begin. Just calm yourself, breathe deeply, and I'll play the chime 9 times. Let it go around you, over you, and through you. Yes, one more thing. And Ndugu, I'm going to, before I do that, I just need to share my screen. So if I now go back, close this down. Okay. And if I share my screen with you, yes. Can you see that, Ndugu?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So we close our eyes now. Breathe deeply, straight back, feet on the floor, hands on thighs, 9 times. Umoja. Mbili. Tatu. Ine. Feel yourself calming. Tana. Forget about what you've done, where you're going. Just be in the present now. Sita. Saba. Nane. Tisa. So we end on the words of power. I'll say it slowly. You can say it with me. Nguvu.
Nguvu.
Zote.
Zote.
Kwa.
Kwa.
Watu.
Watu.
Wetu.
Wetu.
Na mapenzi.
Na mapenzi.
Ya wote.
Ya wote.
Ni mapenzi.
Ni mapenzi.
Yetu.
Yetu.
All parts are people, and the will of the all is our will. Asanteni sana, Jamal. Thank you very much, Kindred.
Yeah, and asante sana to all those who was with us today. And I'd like to invite you again next week, same time, 6 p.m. on PACMTV, when we will have another fascinating, very interesting topic for you to partake in with us. So until then,
Sorry, your connection went there for your last statement. So if you want to say that sentence again.
Sorry, boy, this mic is playing up. Yes, I'd just like to thank everybody who viewed with us today and who partook in this presentation. And I'd like to invite you again next week, same time, 6 p.m. Sunday on PACM TV, where we will have another very interesting presentation for you. So until then, I say Asante Sana and Kwaheri.
Kwaheri.
Kwaheri.